computer. Hello everyone, it's Aimée Clark with Earthlight Energies, and this is the Wellness Project. And today we're going to talk about the journey to Reiki certification and a few other little topics. And I am joined today by fellow Holy Fire Reiki Master, Chantal Breton. And I think before we get too far into it, the best thing for us to do, because we tend to get off topic quite easily when we get talking, we're so passionate about Reiki, that I'm going to just pull up a screen that will show the agenda, and we're actually going to time ourselves and make sure that we stay on track. So I hope that you really enjoy this session, and it's for people who are interested in Reiki, who are thinking about becoming certified in Reiki, or if you're already a Reiki practitioner and you want to know more about becoming a Reiki master. We're not going to go in depth about what Reiki is and how it heals or anything like that. We'll save that for another session. So without further delay, I am going to just share. This is the Wellness Project, and our journey to Reiki, becoming a Reiki practitioner and master. And I have the beautiful Chantal with me, as I said. And today we're going to talk about the actual certification process. We'll talk a little bit about the Canadian Reiki Association, and then we'll talk about the Karuna Reiki and the Holy Fire, how these evolving energies are bringing about changes to Reiki. And I'm going to have Chantal talk about Usui Reiki versus the Holy Fire. We both became certified as Reiki Masters in 2010. However, we had different Reiki Masters. We were actually in different cities. And Chantal became a Holy Fire Reiki Master this year, whereas I've been practicing for 7 years under the Usui system before I became certified with Holy Fire. And then we're going to talk briefly about Earthlight Energies and some upcoming episodes. So stay tuned and we will get started. So the Reiki certification process, I thought this would be a good time to talk about that, because I find more and more people are interested in Reiki. There's an awareness around Reiki. People are seeing it in television shows, on movies. And you know, people are coming to Reiki for different reasons. Some of them are clients, and then they feel so blown away, for lack of a better word, of the power of this beautiful energy, that they actually want it more for themselves or to be able to heal others. And I know just from, we were at a function one time and discovered there were 4 Reiki masters in the room, and there was only 2 of us really that were officially practicing. So there's a lot more people that have Reiki than you probably are aware of. And because there's different ways of teaching, there's actually about 150 different styles of Reiki. So I think it's really important to talk about the certification process so people have a better understanding of it. So under the Usui system, there are technically 4 levels. I wouldn't actually call them that. You can call them levels or you can call them degrees. So there's first degree, which is the first level, second degree, which is the second level, and then there's advanced Reiki training. Some people call that the 3rd degree, and then there's the master teacher training as well. So the first level, now when I took my Reiki, it was more for healing. Even though we learned the hand positions, it was more for healing yourself. And then level 2 was more about being able to heal others. So what was your experience when you were doing your level 1 and level 2?
When I first learned Reiki, I took my level 1 first, and I actually had to wait 3 months before I was able to take my level 2, and then another 6 months before I was able to take my level 3. My experience with the level 1 was very, very good. I actually had received a symbol with my level 1.
Yeah, and that's really unusual because the symbols are, I mean, it's not just you. I've run into some other students that have actually gotten one symbol in level 1, but that's generally under the International Center for Reiki Training. The way that the levels are taught is level 1 is to learn about self Reiki and Reiki on others, but you get the symbols in level 2. And there is no rules in, there's very few rules in Reiki. And this is one of the things I had to learn and unlearn. And, you know, nothing against other teachings out there, but, you know, there are a lot of preconceptions about what Reiki is, what you can and cannot do. And a lot of them are just what other people have been taught. And why would you not believe, you know, what you've been taught? However, a lot of it is you should more go inward and use your own discernment. Does this make sense? Some of the things I was taught, not taught, but told, because my Reiki master, Karen Sarlo, she was very open and said, you know, this is the way that I was taught. I'm not saying that this is the end of the line. You know, if you want to know more, feel free to expand your knowledge, which is exactly what I did. So what I did learn is that there are very few rules around Reiki. So there could be, you know, I could see the merit in having some space between level 1 and level 2, because then that gives people time to experience the Reiki, work with it before they come back and do their level 2.
Now you have, what I did notice is you have included your level 1 and your level 2 together in your class. And maybe you can talk about the benefits that you have found in your decision to offer it in that way.
Sure. And just so you know, like the Reiki manual, oops, I gotta go across the screen in a way that it's not all too shiny and
there
we go. Here we go. So this is the Reiki, the Healing Touch. This is the manual that is issued by the International Center for Reiki Training. When I did my Reiki training with Karen Sarlo, this is the same manual that, well, it was a little bit different then, but it's basically the same manual. And I will answer your question, but I'm just going to show you then when you go on to the Advanced Reiki Training. Now this is the Holy Fire Manual. The Usui Reiki Training Manual is still available through the International Center for Reiki Training, and it looks a little bit different, but the Advanced Reiki Training and the Master are in this manual as well. So I started to teach in 2010, and when I originally started teaching, it was the Reiki for self, and then it was Reiki for others. And then as I learned and grew in my experience and knowledge and worked under other Reiki masters, that changed. And also because the Canadian Reiki Association, they want, in level 1 class, you have to be taught how to give Reiki on yourself, but also to others in the same class. So there is no division of that. And what I found is there's a couple of benefits of having it taught together. One is you have the same students that carry over from day 1 to day 2, and there's a bonding that happens during that time. And it's also incredibly cool because the people that end up in that class together are the people that are meant to be there together. And then if I have practitioners come in to help out during the practice time, I mean, that those people are always perfectly matched for the people that are there as well. And I also found that having that continuity from day 1 into day 2, when you get the Reiki energy, and no one knows what to expect, and they hardly can believe that, oh yeah, we're going to come to this class and we're going to walk away with Reiki. And then when you see the absolute transformation and the wow factor, they just are gobsmacked. Like they just cannot believe how powerful it is from day 1 to day 2 when they have the symbols and are able to use the symbols.
That's true.
So that continuity and being able to, you know, and I think it gives them more confidence because, you know, having worked for many, many long years in workshops and training, delivery, that, you know, I was taught and trained the trainer that if you do not use whatever you've been given within 72 hours, the chances of you continuing on to use that are greatly reduced after that 72 hours. So it's encourages the students to stick with it, and then understand, they have a much better understanding of the Reiki energy as well. Now for level two, not only do you get the symbols and more training and more tools and techniques, what I found is really powerful as well is they get to see that it's not just session Reiki. It can be used for sessions, but it also can be used for non-session use as well. And, for example, distant Reiki, and again, is the whole concept that you can send energy to someone, you can heal someone from a distance, is a little bit, it's beyond our ability to accept, let's say, until initially to experience it. And I think actually during this time where we've had to do a lot of things virtually, it's been really good to support this. That's because true. A lot of times, I'll say, send distant Reiki to somebody, and some people do, but they don't get the same impact. Whereas now we have Zoom, we have Skype, and you can do it over the phone. You can just not even have the person in front of you, but I just can't get over the power of that energy they feel even through this media.
Yeah.
So, I think it gives them more confidence to continue on with the Reiki, even the ones that just want to do it for themselves. Sorry, my phone is
with good intentions.
We had good intentions. Oh, well. So what else about level two? So I think, that was, and then I think too, like it's
also provides an opportunity to feel the energy without the symbols.
Oh, right.
And then with
yes.
the symbols. I know that because I've come and helped participate.
Yeah, and because I've changed how I teach. So and I mean, I always get feedback from my students, which always makes me think about how can I do this differently so that they can incorporate this and have a better understanding and have confidence. Because once you have Reiki's nothing. I mean, I don't mean nothing. You get the energy, but it's then, now what do I do with this? And
right.
And having the confidence to put your hands on people and what do I do? And again,
it's what do you do with it? Now that you got it, what do you do with it?
And it's like, there's no rules really,
yeah.
but you still want some structure around that at the beginning, right? So, and, I think you can speak to this because I know when I had you come into class and it's like, okay, everybody, we're the first in level two, you're going to do no Reiki, or sorry, you're going to do Reiki with no symbols. And then we're going to do the Reiki with the symbols so that you can understand what that sensation is like.
Yeah.
And if you can speak to that, because I know that was different for you to come in and do that as well.
It became, I mean, having done Reiki for so long, using the symbols and during the session was so automatic that it almost took a bit of a conscious effort to not use them. But it was also a good experience and a good reminder for me to feel that flow of energy the same way that I would feel it when I am using the symbols as when I am not.
Yeah.
Of course, I think there's also a benefit to that with spending time or focus on a specific symbol and feeling the difference individually between each of the symbols as you work with them and as you're learning about them and their whole intent and their purpose, to feel that energetic frequency or that different vibration that you sense when you're using the different symbols.
And I really want people when they leave class to be so comfortable, because there's one symbol that's quite difficult to draw, but I want people to be so confident with those, as confident as they can be after a day of using them, that they're not going to not use them because they can't remember how to use them and stuff like that. So that's level one and level two. So I always teach them together. Now, if somebody had their, and a couple other things that come up around that is, there's often questions around, well, if so-and-so is my Reiki master, can I take your class? And absolutely. I mean, I've had 3 or 4 different Reiki masters. There's nothing wrong with going to another Reiki master. There is a bit of a a difference when you've had your placements with Holy Fire, which we'll talk about later. However, no, you don't need permission. I know someone had told me that. They said, well, I need permission from my Reiki master. I said, absolutely not.
I certainly had never heard of that.
You know, and there's certainly a lot of benefit in going to different Reiki masters because you learn different things, right? Now, everything that you're going to learn as far as Usui goes, if they're using the material from the International Center for Reiki Training, and I highly recommend it, and especially about the history of Reiki, the best book that I've ever read is the evidence-based history of Reiki that William Rand did from the International Center for Reiki Training. And it takes out a lot of the misinformation that's out there about Reiki, I think. So yeah, it's really important that, you know, it's like any other professional. You should be interviewing the Reiki master. You should find out what their experience has been. Now, it doesn't mean if they're really new to teaching that you go, well, I'm not going to go to you. That's wrong thinking too. I mean, you have to give them a chance, but you have to look at what their lineage is and, you know, and get a sense of who they are as a teacher. And if they have been teaching a long time, then check their credentials, check, you know, with other students if they will let you talk to them as well. So
actually, I think that's a really good point that you provide too, and maybe find out what you're expected to receive from that master as well too. I know that I've had an experience where I did go through my level 1, my level 2, level 3 master teacher level, and when everything was all said and done, I received a single certificate for my master level. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and why it's important.
Yeah. Anyone who is teaching should be providing you, you're taking a course, they should be providing you with a certificate. So you should have a certificate. You should also have a lineage chart. Now, I've only issued those to the master classes. However, I've recently received a request from one of my students, and I double checked with William to see if there was any reason why I couldn't issue a lineage chart to level 1 and level 2 students. And he said, absolutely not. There's no reason why you can't do that. And if they're asking for it, you can. So I'm just in the process of, you know, updating my lineage chart so that I can distribute it a little easier to all the students. And you should also be receiving a quality manual, and that manual, if it's not from the International Center for Reiki Training, if it's their manual, just to make sure there's no copyrighted material in there, because I've seen that as well. And you should also be getting the symbols. Now, we had a bit of an issue with the symbols as well, because we discovered that one of your symbols was different, but I just did a placement for you for the symbols so that, and you actually felt the energy difference between the symbols as well.
The difference, and not that they're both symbols, so they're both, but and they both work. The energy and the delivery and the impact, I felt a difference when using
the different
symbol.
Yeah. And so that's level 1 and level 2. And then for advanced Reiki training and the master training under the Usui system, the advanced Reiki training is 1 day. You get your master symbol. Oftentimes that's all people want. They just want those master energies, and because it is an upgrade to your energies as well. And then if you want to become a teacher, then there's a two-day course on the master teacher course, and you get other symbols. This is under the Usui symbol system. You don't in Holy Fire, but you get new symbols in order for you to facilitate the attunement process. And
maybe talk a little bit about, because there's an attunement process under the Usui system, and then the placement process under the Holy Fire.
Right. So do you want to talk about Holy Fire right now, or do you want to talk? I think you had some questions.
I did have a question, and we did have a question. I had a discussion about this, and there's a lot to know and understand. I think it's beneficial to share about the Canadian Reiki Association and the difference between a practitioner under the Canadian Reiki Association and
being a practitioner.
Just a Reiki practitioner, right, in general.
Yeah, because it can be a little bit confusing. So at level 1, now this is where some opinions differ depending on who the teachers are. You can hang up your shingle and you are a practitioner. You can actually practice. There's nothing that would prevent you from doing that. However, you'll have much stronger energies and more versatility because you'll have more tools, resources, and symbols with your level 2. So whether you're level 1, level 2, advanced Reiki trainer, if you've had your 3rd degree, then you're still a Reiki practitioner. It changes when you become a Reiki master teacher. Now you're still a practitioner, but now you can teach. So under the Canadian Reiki Association, now the Canadian Reiki Association is a membership organization. So it's really important to understand that they have tiers of memberships. So even though you have been a Reiki master for 10 years, when you apply to become a member of the Canadian Reiki Association, you have to come in as a student. And it doesn't mean you're not a practitioner anymore. It just means that's their membership tier that you are entering under. Now, in order to become a practitioner member of the Canadian Reiki Association, so that you can use the designation CRA-RT, you have to complete 24 hours of case studies. Now, there's a combination of continuing education credits and that you can get through Reiki Shares, and we can talk about Reiki Shares in a minute, and also the actual case studies you do with clients. So once you've completed those case studies, you send them into the Canadian Reiki Association, and they will send it to the board, and the board approves the case studies, and then you're given that designation. Now, to become a teacher, you have to, and I guess the other thing we didn't talk about is once you have level 2, in order to do your advanced Reiki training or your master training, you have to wait 6 months. So there is a rule. One of the rules on the Reiki side. And once you become a master teacher through the certification process and you are a member of the Canadian Reiki Association, you have to wait 1 year from the date of your certification to apply to become a teacher. And then when you apply to be a teacher, you have to have all your outlines, your curriculum done, which gets sent to the board, and the board approves those. And and as a Reiki master and member of the Canadian Reiki Association, as a teacher, it's my responsibility to review those, not to do them for you, but to review them to make sure that you meet their criteria, because they do have guidelines on their site that you are guided to follow, but then there's criteria that you have to have.
This is where the rules come in.
So classes have to be 8 hours long. They can be 7 hours with 1 hour of homework. You have to teach, Reiki on self, Reiki on others. You have to give an attunement or placement before you give practice time. The practice time, you have to give 1 hour of receiving and 1 hour of giving Reiki. And there's some other things in there as well, depending on what the level is, the certification level. So, and, this is where it becomes really important to hang on to your certificates and keep them in a safe place, keep them digitally, because you run into an issue where, you want to become a member. And because I've known you for so long, I didn't even think to ask you, and it's actually my fault, because I should have, when you took your master class, required that you give me a copy of your level 1 and level 2 certificates, and I didn't ask you that. So if you want to talk about that for 1 sec, I'm just going to put a light on so we have a bit more.
So because I never received my level 1 or level 2 certificate, when I did apply for the Canadian Reiki Association membership, I was declined, because they also do require all of your certificates as well. So of course it's something that I can acquire through my master, and I should have had it initially, but it's just something, those are good questions to ask and be mindful of when you're thinking about selecting your master, or thinking about what your Reiki journey will be. What is your goal, and what is it that you want to do with the Reiki work, and what you might require.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, because just because, I mean, I have so many people that come to me and say, oh, this is all I want my Reiki for right now. But you don't know what life has in store for you. And
Actually, that's a
and
good
more
point.
often than not, people, you know, have some huge event happen in their life and they go, whoa, like this is something I really now want to do on, you know, a different level. So,
True.
and if you want those certificates, then it's really important.
For me, I know that when I first started and gained interest in Reiki, it was on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
It was for self-healing, and it wasn't until later on, maybe 2012, where it started, that I started wanting to actually practice and help heal other people. And it wasn't until 2015 that I really felt that calling. So it was a good amount of time, and a lot of things changed during that process. But always keep an open mind to where your Reiki journey might take you.
And I think it's really, this might be, I know we get sidetracked here, but I think it's also important to understand that, you know, I'm seeing this more and more too, that people, because there's so much more awareness out there about Reiki, that people are coming and they've never experienced a Reiki session. So now I'm actually, if someone comes to me and says they want to take the certification class, I'm giving them a Reiki session, because, and I'm actually insisting upon it, because how are you going to even understand what you're going to experience, and how are you going to understand how to even if it's only one session, what that session looks like, if you've never had a Reiki session before. So that's not a rule. It's more,
it's not a hard
set rule, although I am going to, and I mean, I offer it as a free 30-minute session, so it's not something that they're paying for, but I just think it's really essential that you have that Reiki experience. And actually one session, it gives you the idea of what Reiki is, but it's still not enough, I just find. And I think too, like this concept of, you know, it's not like becoming a masseuse or a yoga teacher, where this is a certificate that I have to do something, because that's not what Reiki is. It is so on so many levels, and it's not only about working on yourself and healing yourself and helping other people to heal. There's a difference between healing and curing, so please don't mix it up, but it's just a word that I have to use at the moment. But this is much deeper, and Reiki will blow up your life. I've had it happen to me. And even after 10 years of, you know, before I started, well, even when I got into the Holy Fire, it's been more like 12 years. And I mean, it's ever changing, it's ever growing. And as the energies change, and, you know, it's all about, well, why are we here? What is our life purpose? And as you're seeking that and moving towards that, the Reiki will help you, it will guide you, but it's sure going to raise up in you the ugly stuff. Well, not ugly. It's all about,
it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
and the belief that reaching out or seeking out Reiki as a modality to help heal.
I'm fixed, I'm fine, and
it does take work. It takes
work.
It's a work in process.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, not every and it's, you can't, and don't feel that you have to hold yourself back because you have all this work to do. It's part of it. It's a part of it, because we're not perfect, any of us, and it's like, okay, fix this part, now you're going to go to the next level. And it's just the whole process, the whole journey of that. And Reiki can guide you and help you. And, you know, I integrated in every aspect of my life. I remember when, and we were talking about this, about how lucky the students are right now to become certified in Reiki, because 10 years ago, you know, it's still woo-woo, witchcraft, you know, the whole idea about it. And you were really put down and ridiculed. I mean, I still get bugged. My brother keeps telling me I can come Reiki his lawn in any day because he's got lots of leaves and stuff on it. but you know, the acceptance of it and the understanding of it is much broader on a global scale as well. And you know, like I was talking about when I was at work, and you know, people were like, oh my God, are you like, why do you tell people that you have Reiki? Like, aren't you afraid? I'm going, no, because this isn't just something I do on the side, even though up until this year, Reiki has always been my part-time business. You know, I said, no, it's a part of what I do. And I work for a financial institution. And I told them I did Reiki, and I tried to get Reiki in the workplace, and they were, what is that word? They were polite and very, and were willing to look at it, but they were amused, let's say.
They entertained it.
They entertained it.
They may not have accepted it, but they entertained it.
Yes, but I sure did a lot of in the boardrooms, Reiki on people who had headaches and stuff like that. And then there's also this sense of like, well, if I integrate it in my life and I use Reiki to help gain the things that I want in my life, that those things are just going to show up. And everything will be perfect and wonderful and rosy, and it's not meant to, I'm just thinking of, for example,
it's not meant to put your head in the sand and pretend there's nothing else going on.
Yeah, and I mean, we use it to achieve goals, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it. Yeah. You might, you know, it will clear all the energies and help you if that's something you're meant to get. But if it's not meant for you, or, you know, if you're trying to do something against someone else's will, because I think it's important people understand Reiki can do no harm, and you can't do anything against anybody's will. Anyways, we're getting off topic here. But so the Canadian Reiki Association, some of the other benefits, but see how fast I get back to it.
Back to business.
The benefits too is, as a student, you can issue extended health benefit forms. Now, not all employers in Canada have group benefit plans that will accept Reiki, but we ask everyone to submit them anyway, because the more rejects they get, then these organizations will see that there's a demand for it. So we can issue those. The insurance is amazing. I was looking at trying to get professional liability insurance. It was going to cost me like $5,000. And on top of that, my commercial general liability insurance, and through the Reiki Association, you can get the insurance, and it's like a few $100 a month, and they do it through a broker. So it's fabulous that way. The other benefits that it's had for my practice is that I have to sign the scope of practice, the code of conduct, their ethics, and there's a disciplinary policy as well. And because of that, and because I was a member, I was able to work in Kingston out of a holistic medical clinic. And I've done other contract work even here in North Bay that I was able to do simply because I was a member. So it gives integrity, credibility to your practice. Referrals, because, you know, people aren't sure anymore. They're checking you out. They want to make sure that you are who you say you are. And they can go to the Canadian Reiki Association website. They can look me up. I'll show you in a second where you can find that out. And if you want to become a member, if you're a practitioner out there right now and you want to become a member, you know, I highly, highly encourage you to do it. And the AGMs are in May, the last weekend in May. This year it was supposed to be in BC, but it got changed to Ontario as a virtual session meeting. Next year it's going to be in BC. I try to go to both because I have family out west. So, and they're good. It's good to go, and it's good to support the association as well. And they've made great strides. So to just show you the Canadian Reiki Association, and of course I have this something weird happen every time I try to go in here. But if you're trying to find a practitioner, you can just go in here, and if we scroll down, which I now need glasses to see, sorry. Then if you scroll down, you can find North Bay, and then just do a search. And the only reason I'm at the top is because my first name starts with an A, and I'll try to do this a little, there we go. So you can see everyone's listed. You can go in there and find out more information about them. Karen Sarlo, who's my Reiki master, Kayla Casey, who is a Holy Fire Reiki Master, one of my students. Same with Lynn Boissonneau, Holy Fire Reiki Master. And Lynn St. Denis is one of the new Reiki practitioners, level 2. And V, I love V, haven't seen her in forever. So you can check people out here. You can message people on here if you want information about the membership. There's everything is here for you to look at. So that was the Canadian Reiki. So did I answer your questions about the Canadian Reiki?
Yes, but I do have still a question about the attunement versus placement.
Right. Okay. So the next, and I guess the next kind of you
want to talk about the Karuna first.
Oh, Karuna Reiki, yes, because Karuna Reiki. So interestingly enough, I was in Berks Falls at Circling Hawks and I was looking for some books and saw this book on Karuna Reiki, and I hadn't heard of that, and I went, oh, I'm going to get this book. And again,
how long ago was that?
I'm not quite sure. I think it was 2010, early 2011, because I joined the International Center for Reiki Training. I was an affiliate member with them, and they also have an association, which I became a member of as well. So I was getting all the updates. I buy all my teaching materials through them, and I also get their Reiki newsletter magazine, which is fabulous. And I got a notification, this was after I got the book, that they were doing Karuna Reiki classes in Upper New York for 7 days in a retreat. And I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. I could not wait to go. Now, you had to have your Reiki master for a whole year before you could go. So or was it 6 months? Can't remember. Anyways.
You've done the time.
I did the time. And so I went to, and it was fab, and it was such a good experience. Not only did I have to unlearn a lot of stuff that I thought I knew about Reiki, I learned a lot of new things about Reiki. There were people from all over the world, not only the States, but Europe, and someone was there from the Dominican Republic as well. And there were 3 registered teachers there, and I actually got to meet William Rand, so I was able to pepper him with a million questions. Yes. And the Karuna Reiki, what that did, I'm Karuna Reiki Master, which is now Holy Fire Karuna Reiki Master. It gave me 8 more symbols in my toolbox. So it's still the Usui system, but it's just more symbols.
And more information.
And more information and more knowledge. And then in 2015, I got another email saying that the Holy Fire energies were available. And I went, Holy Fire? What is that? So read all the information. William had sent out a pre-announcement to everybody. And I went, wow, this is really interesting and cool. And I started thinking about Dr. Usui and how he got Reiki and how it was just downloaded into him after he went on this spiritual journey. And this seemed like this Reiki energy was now evolving, because it seemed like, when I think back about the Usui Reiki, even as beautiful and as I can only use the word light, but it's beautiful energy, but it seemed to take longer for the sessions for people to heal. And also the energies around us were denser, where I find now the energies, and vibrations are changing and shifting, and our access to those energies have changed and shifted. So I thought, oh, this is really cool, but are you kidding me? I have to do my Reiki Master all over again. I even emailed them and said, I'm already a Reiki Master. Can I just get the Holy Fire? Yeah. And they said, no, you have to. It's all different material. And I actually called one of the, a lady that I knew that had taken the Holy Fire, and I asked her all kinds of questions, and she said, oh yes, it's definitely worth it. So I actually did my homework too. And it's not so much that I was skeptical, although there is a part of me that always is, and I learned that from William, actually. In some ways I learned it from him, but it was also something I always kind of experienced in my life. It's like, well, just because someone tells you something or you read it in a book, you need to experience it.
It's true. Yeah. That's what Reiki's all about.
Yeah.
You need to experience
it. But I know that you, when I first started talking to you a few years ago,
I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I held on to my Usui for 10 plus years.
Yes.
And I kind of did have a perception of, you know, I do have my master, and I access a very, very high vibration of energy, and
What could be better than that?
Or, you know, how could there be even more? And it was only once I did get the energy upgrade that I recognized, or I comprehended what the difference could be. And it is hard to describe or articulate verbally, because as we've kind of mentioned, it is like Reiki, it's something that you do experience, and you comprehend through the experience of it. But what I can describe it as, and it was actually part of my homework, I think, that I do Reiki session right before the upgrade, using just the Usui, and then again after receiving the Holy Fire, just to compare. And boy, did I feel the difference.
It's a much more powerful energy, and I don't like using that word, but there's really no way to describe it. It's much more refined. It comes from a much more higher vibrational place, and if you're working with the Reiki energy, you can actually feel it. But not only that, it's such pure love and unconditional. Like it's, and you experienced that when you were doing Reiki on me. And I actually had another Reiki master who we were just doing an exchange one day, and she said to me, "How are you?" And I said, "Fabulous." And she said, when she finished the session on me, she was crying. At first she started to laugh. I said, "What's so funny?" And she goes, "Oh my God, it was so joyous."
Yeah.
I almost burst out laughing. And then she started to cry. I said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "The energy coming off you was so beautiful. It's joyous. It's
pure
just
joy,
pure joy, and
unconditional love.
And unconditional love.
It feels softer, I think, is a nice way to describe it. It's very, very intuitive and very automatic. So when you're comparing to you using Usui style in a session, it does take some time at first to kind of start feeling the flow, or to feel guided to use certain positions or certain symbols. Whereas when you're using the Holy Fire, it's very, very intuitive. It's very, very soft and loving. I'm not sure how, not that the Usui is more invasive or hard, but maybe it's a bit more abrupt, or
and I think my experience has been that it seems to take a little, you need more sessions in order to reach all those levels, where is the Holy Fire, and especially now with Holy Fire 2, it's really digging in there to get rid of those negative belief systems, those negative patterns. And it's more, whereas I feel like Usui was more healing on the 3D human
surface
side,
more of a surface level.
Yeah, whereas the Holy Fire is multidimensional.
It really
does that make sense?
It does make sense, and it really digs deep, and it pulls it out. It pulls it out what needs to be processed, and it something that I've really learned a lot throughout the past year plus working with you. That there is a lot of part of the process is really, really pulling it out and processing. So it's not something that necessarily just comes in and is healed automatically. It's something that you will then recognize, acknowledge,
be the observer,
and process through. So it's not a, take this magic blue pill and everything is goes away, but it'll help you uncover and discover those layers and those parts of yourselves that you're working on, or as a practitioner to the client, help them pull that information out and go through that process that helps them along their healing journey.
Yeah. And so the Holy Fire, now not only did I get to go to, I went to Glastonbury, England, Oh, we will get through this. We're just laughing because we've had so much interference and trying to get
Just
this
stay
going.
with,
but it's
stay
normal.
with us. Stay with us.
At least the computer is not overheating. The Reiki energy is very high.
It is recording.
It is recording. So I went to Glastonbury, England to do my Holy Fire. And again, what an amazing experience, because I got to meet Reiki practitioners and Reiki masters from all over the world, and all different insights, all different experiences. Grilled William with all my questions, and was so glad that I did do my masterclass all over again, because it was different, totally different. And we got to go to we stayed at the Abbey, we went to the tour and did some really cool Reiki stuff there. And we also went to Stonehenge, because with Holy Fire, when you're getting your Holy Fire, it's actually an ignition process. So it ignites the Holy Fire in you, and it's placed in totally different than the Usui system. And then as a Holy Fire Reiki master, you have the ability to do placements rather than attunements. So the attunement process under the Usui system, you have these symbols, it's very individualized. It's quite a process, and for some people they found it quite difficult to do. And there's always the opportunity for the Reiki master's energies to be combined in that process, because they're so involved in the actual process of doing the attunement. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes what we do in the Usui is that we would give each other multiple attunements all the time, because that created a clear channel for the Reiki energy. Totally unnecessary with the Holy Fire. Once you have your placement, in fact, anyone who has a placement with Holy Fire, don't ever get an attunement from somebody who has Usui Reiki, because you're going to undo the placement that you already have. So this placement is basically, you have people, your students are all in the room, there's a short guided meditation, and then the Holy Fire, you're just facilitating the space, the Holy Fire energies come in, and you get the Reiki. Now, trust me, having done Reiki for so many years, I had only a little bit of skepticism, like, really? This is really, how different is this going to be than what I already had? I was absolutely blown away at the power of this energy and how much I felt it, not only through the placement, but the ignition process as well. And it was life-altering, life-changing. So at the time, like William explained, he said his field was only big enough to do, a small class, but it would get bigger. And then as the Reiki energy evolved and the Holy Fire evolved, he'd be able to do upgrades rather than us always having to come back to upgrade our energy. So the first webinar we had about a year later, and not quite a year later, was to upgrade to Holy Fire 2. And I did that from my Reiki studio in Kingston, and there was about 300 people on the line. Then when I did the Holy Fire 3, which was in 2019, there were 700 people on the line. Now, just to back up a little bit, in September of 2018, I was sitting there thinking, as I always do, well, how come it's just William that can do this? Cannot all of us get this Holy Fire 3, especially when you understand how the energy works and how we got it? And I actually called one of the International Center for Reiki Training Teachers and asked her some questions around it. And she said, well, sure, we've all asked those questions. And yeah, you can, but call it something else, basically, is what it was. So I had a client come in and who was quite sensitive to the energies, who'd been my client for a long time. And I said to her, I'm going to try something different today, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. She got off the table and went, oh my God, what was that? That was amazing. But what I did is I asked for a much higher vibrational, pure energy to come in. All excited, I emailed William and said, this is my experience. And he emailed me back and said, well, the Holy Fire energy is now here. I'm just sending something out and there'll be an upgrade in January. And I was over the moon excited. I just couldn't believe it. I thought, if this is this energy, I just can't wait to get the full amount of it. And I said, well, is it because you're a Reiki master and we're all connected that we're already getting aspects of this energy? And he said, well, other people have been experiencing it, so that could be true, right? And so anyways, and what the other piece of it, like there's other techniques and tools, but the other thing that I just love about Holy Fire is we can do something called experiences, which you've experienced. And they are so powerful. And it allows us, it gives us more flexibilities because we can use these experiences in a Reiki session, but also if we're doing a talk on Reiki, then we can do an experience and everyone in the room experiences the Reiki energy. So one dear lovely lady in North Bay, her name is Harriet Madigan. She has a group called Living Fit, and she asked me to come and do just a talk on Reiki. And I said, great, and I can do this experience. Everyone's going to be able to experience the Reiki energy. And she goes, well, how are you going to do that? There's going to be like 30, 40 women in the room. I said, oh, you just wait and see. So I did the experience, and they could not get over what they actually felt. Some of them had Fitbits on, and they saw their heart rates lower, and all of these things. I don't know much about Fitbits, what they pick up, but I don't wear that stuff. But yeah, so it's a whole different experience, but what it's done also for me is, and going back to Holy Fire 3, I actually stopped Holy Fire 3 and went back to Holy Fire 2, which took me on a whole different wild and wacky adventure.
A good one.
An interesting one. It's been one interesting year. So I think maybe before we close off, do you want to talk about Earthlight energies?
Yeah.
Oh, but maybe we could just talk about, I think you already talked about it, but maybe going back, like when you think about the Usui system and now with Holy Fire, like is there anything else that you can add as far as what significant, I mean, I know what the difference is, but all my students, except for you, have come from a Holy Fire placement.
True.
Whereas you come from the Usui.
Yeah. One thing that I could add that I hadn't mentioned as well is the intuition, I think, in it too, and the automatic flow. Actually, another thing too. I used to, with the Usui, I used to always work in the auric field a lot.
That's true.
And I'm not so sure why. I know that I felt the energy flow a lot more easily when I was in the auric field. I think I was more comfortable working in that field. I think because I could feel a lot more of the density in the flow. I knew that it was very strong and powerful when it came in. And now as I compare it to the Holy Fire flow, it's a lot more warm, loving, soft, and subtle, and so intuitive that as much as you're always just channeling the energy, and you're really drawn to place your hands in the positions and to place the symbols that you feel drawn to, there's a lot more intuitiveness and automatic flowing with the Holy Fire. I find that I'm more drawn to the hand position. I'm more drawn to placing my hands right on the clients as well, and being more open to more and more positions. And
because that's the other rule that doesn't exist. Like no, and I remember struggling with that when I started learning Reiki, and it's like 15 hand positions. How many minutes do I have to do on each one to get through an hour, and each symbol, and and it's like there's no rule around the hand positions.
What's meant for the client.
Freestyle.
Yeah. So I think a good word to describe that is confidence and trust. Yeah. Maybe another word is discernment. So I think I did acquire a higher sense of discernment with the energy that I'm working with. And that's something that's really, really hard to explain. Had Aimée ever tried to explain that to me when I was still using Usui, I don't know that I would have been able to comprehend. So there's also another level of comprehension that comes along with it, and awareness. that I didn't really pick up on before. So it's having an ability to now see a little bit more insight or more underlying, and have an opportunity to heal and grow and help others through that.
And I think too is what I'm seeing is that, I mean, part of it is the change that is happening globally on the planet, with people starting to awaken more to who they are and why they're here. I mean, what is our purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And what I say to everyone is this Reiki is almost like a stepping stone, and it is going to awaken your superpowers, and we all have our own superpowers. So whether it's psychic or higher intuitiveness, insightfulness, some people see auras, some people see visions, some people are medical intuitives, whatever that might be. And it's very, very cool when we do a Reiki share, because you get to see how everybody actually experiences the Reiki energy. You know, I have one student where, and it's very cool when we do this and show that the client, it feels like heat, so much heat from her hands, but she experienced it as cold, cold, cold.
That's true.
You know, so every one of us, and I think what you're experiencing now is that it's opening up your higher self, like it's opening up
your connection
to who you really are.
Yeah.
And you know, this journey for me, and it's just exploded since, you know, and for me, Reiki was so structured. I only practiced Reiki. I didn't add any other modalities to what I was doing, because I wanted people to know when they came in for a Reiki session, what they were experiencing was Reiki. I mean, I add crystals and stuff like that, but I don't add anything else to it. While we're limited to under the Canadian Reiki Association, it doesn't mean you can't do those things. It just means that they can't be part of the Reiki session. You can do it before, you can do it after. So what happened with Holy Fire 3, I went, like there's a problem with this energy, which I'm not going to get into right now. I need help. So I reached out to Monica Lumley-Piercy, who owns Heart of Unity, and she used to be in North Bay. And 10 years ago, when I was doing my case, about 12 years ago now, yeah, somewhere around there. Anyways, doesn't matter. When I, probably 10 years ago, because 12 years ago I got Reiki, but it was 2010, end of 2009, when I started to work on my case studies. And I rented space from her, and she's a psychic medium, has many, many talents. And her partner, Richard, started to channel. And I thought, wow, I need some help here beyond, you know, there's no handbook here. I need some help. So I reached out to them and said, here's what I'm experiencing. This is what I think. Would you be willing to channel for me? Now, Richard generally channels the gang, which he calls the gang. And I'm going to show you their website before we leave here, so you can check them out. And if you're not sure what channeling is, there you can look that up. But and I am going to, I know here, sorry, I get off topic, sorry. We will get through this. But I am going to do an interview with Monica and Richard, and I've asked them if we can do a channeling session through Zoom as well, so that people can experience what a channeling session is, and we have specific topics. I'm just waiting to hear back from them on that. So I contacted them, and he said, sure, we'll set this up. And whoa, what an experience it turned out to be. And I actually asked him, I said, okay, I've been told I work with Archangel Michael, you know, can you channel Archangel Michael? And he said, well, I have no control over who comes through, but we can ask. And so now AM is in every channeling session that we do. I fondly call Archangel Michael AM. And it has been such an amazing experience for me, because it's allowed me to break away from that structure. And, you know, the way that I reviewed Reiki, the way that I was practicing it, and not only that, the limitations I had put on myself as far as what I was here to do. And, you know, through that guidance, and it wasn't, oh, here's what you need to do. It was, here's some clues and hints. Now you got to go do the research and the work and experience this and experiment, but be careful what you're doing. I got my hand slapped a couple of times. And through that, I went to visit them for a channeling session. And I was sitting there and I said, well, you know, there's a group of us that are working together and it doesn't feel like Reiki anymore. I mean, the Reiki's there, but we don't know what to call it. And Monica just kind of sat there and smiled, and she said, you already have the name. And I said, I do? And I said, what? And she said, well, you've had the name all along. Now you have the energies. And she said, it's earth light energies. I went, oh my God. So then what had happened is I had another symbol that I had been working with for a long time. I just used it, not really thinking about it. Then I started doing work with another Reiki practitioner. And through that research and through that work, all of a sudden I started getting these other symbols. So I got 2 more symbols. And when Chantal was doing her Reiki masterclass, I said, you know what? I want to see if I have the ability to be able to place these symbols. If the Holy Fire energy accepts these symbols, can I place these symbols in you? And went through this whole process of trying to do that. And oh my goodness, we were blown away by the experience that we both had. And the insights that Chantal got, because for me, the way I experienced the Reiki energy is quite different, which I'll go back to, or I'll get sidetracked again. So, now, but through that process, it became very clear to me that I couldn't add them to the Holy Fire. It had to be a separate certification. I don't even want to say certification because I'm not even sure that that's what it's going to look like, but it can't be part of the Holy Fire. It has to be something separate, and it can only be for practitioners that have been practicing for quite some time and have really been working with the Holy Fire. It can only be the Holy Fire energy.
Is that a rule?
So, it's not a rule. It's a limitation that I have right now.
I'm just bugging.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not trying to make it exclusive or anything like that. It's just that it would make no sense to just give it to people who are using it at home, because these symbols have very high and different purposeful and powerful frequencies that you would want to be really comfortable in working with the Reiki energy and understanding what it's doing with the client. And they can't do any harm, so don't get me wrong there. That's not what it's about. It's just the purpose of what that is.
And the understanding.
And the understanding of what it's about and the intention that's behind it. So
I think what you're trying to say maybe is the individual themselves also has to be ready to take on that next step.
Absolutely. So I still haven't figured out what I'm going to give Chantal yet. I'm still working on that. That's what we're working on right now to sort that out. And I've had many channeling sessions with AM over the past year. I've been working with this great group of Reiki practitioners because, what we have to understand, and we were talking about this earlier too, like when I first started out with Reiki, I was getting all this phenomena. And what I mean by that is, I'd be picking up visions and colors and images and all this other stuff. But really, when I did the Holy Fire, that stopped. I mean, I was always experiencing the energy, but what happened is that went away. But what replaced that was all energy. So, anyone who has been working with me or knows me, that's all I talk about it in frequencies and densities and the subtleties of that energy. And that's the way I experience the energy. And for me, then I need these translators to be able to say, okay, this is what I've experienced. This is what I think it is. What do you see? What information are you getting? And this is why I think that when I think of earth light energies, it's not going to be structured as here's your symbols. This is carrying forward through my lineage to whatever you're doing. I think these energies are coming in to individually open ourselves up to our higher selves, to whatever tools and resources that we're meant to now bring down into this human self to then help other people
kind
through
of like
that experience.
The individual's contribution with their unique ability, their unique gift, their unique purpose, and what we're here to do.
Their unique superpowers. So, did we cover everything? Was there anything that we were going to talk about and we didn't? So we talked about the certification process. I'm just going to recap here. There's level 1, level 2, or level first degree, second degree, ART, and master. I teach level 1 and level 2 together, but you can take level 1 and not take level 2, or take level 2. You can take ART if you want to. However, if you want to do the masterclass with me, whether you're teaching or not teaching, you have to take all 3 days because that's just the way the Holy Fire works. And I'm working on what to do with earth light energies, and the Canadian Reiki Association highly recommend it. And anything else that
Well,
I think is important?
You were writing things.
I'm writing things. Oh yes, I'm working on a book, and yes, there's a whole other aspect there.
Very exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff that we will talk about later. And
maybe next episode. What's to
come? Well, I really want to do an episode on the channeling. Mm-hmm. And I think right now, especially, there's a lot of different, well, let's just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. So the channeling session, there'll be a whole topic around that, and a bit around overcoming fear and understanding more about what energies and how can I explain it? So we have all of these guides, we have angels, we have all of these beings around to help us, but it's important to understand that there's other energies there that have made themselves known that we need to understand, not be afraid of, but understand and know how to work with them and how to deal with them. Is that a way to explain it? Yep. Okay, so what I want to do before we sign off here is I want to go to the Heart of Unity website, because these fabulous people. So here is the wonderful and beautiful Monica, who is a psychic medium, clairvoyant. And when I went back through, 10, 12 years ago when I first met Monica, yes, I did go in and get some readings with her, but really the most powerful, what I got the most value from me was her mentorship and her teaching. Like, I was so naive, like the things that I didn't know. And then the very interesting Richard Fogg, who does the channeling sessions. So if you want to have more information about them, I highly recommend both of them. And yeah, as Richard said, there's more wild and wacky. Strap on your seatbelts.
Adventures to come.
Adventures to come. So
it's only the beginning.
It's only the beginning. And thank you so much, Chantal, for yes, and for going through this day with me to try to get this done. So much interference, as always. We won't even talk about what happened. So. And thank you so much. Please, if you have any questions about eventually Chantal, like if you want sessions with Chantal, I will post on my website her contact information. And if you're interested in learning more about Reiki or about becoming certified in Reiki, then you can reach out to either one of us. So, and in love and light and Reiki blessings to you all, and share away to anyone else that you feel might find this beneficial.
Thank you.